So soothing. Oh. So if you read my e-blast this week, I took a jab at professional boxing. Guilt wanted to arise. I thought, oh, I could step on some toes there. But I was thinking about what we give up, right? My first husband and dear friend still. No, he wasn't first, but anyway. He's also a Unity minister. And I can remember he would watch boxing, and it would just irritate me. Like, how can you do that? How can you watch somebody on purpose for money knock somebody else unconscious? I just can't go with that. And I really wish you'd turn it off. And he said to me, well, I'll give up boxing when you give up soap operas. Now, I never was a really big soap opera person, but when I was in college, the very first episode of All My Children aired. So all the women in my dorm gathered round to see the very first episode. And I made a commitment to myself at that time. Well, to be on the front end of something is really significant. I'm going to watch it for the rest of my life until it ends. So I made a commitment to All My Children. What you may not know is Ruth Warwick, who played the part of Phoebe Tyler, for those of you who may have seen this, was a licensed Unity teacher. Yes, she was. We're behind the scenes a lot. She was a licensed Unity teacher, so we go to a conference, a regional conference, where she is a guest speaker. And it was on the ocean. It was on the Gulf. And somebody came to us and said, Ruth Warwick would love to go into the ocean. Would you be her escort? And we said, oh, sure. So we go, we get our bathing suit and all that. We go, we knock on her door. And she opens the door in full makeup and a turban. And I mean, glamorous. Just absolutely glamorous. So we take her to the shore and we go wading out into the water. And the waves are smacking. Well, she turns her back and we're holding on to her. And every wave that would hit her, she'd go, ha, 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 ha. She had the time of her life. And then she gave us a professional photo signed to my surf buddies. Wasn't that sweet? Wasn't that sweet? So I made a commitment to watch soap operas. I'm going to share 4 stories with you today, and it has to do really with anxiety. That story is the beginning, the opening. What do we commit to that may not be in our best interests? If our primary purpose is a spiritual life, a solid foundation, and a pure expression, what are the little nitpicky things that we do that may get in our way that we condone? That's the first thing. Second thing is going to what was called ministerial education program back in my day, also known as seminary. In order to get in, you have written stuff, you have to have certain courses to even apply, and you go through interviews. So we're there. And I was looking for signs everywhere. Oddly enough, when I first got the letter for the invitation, I wanted a sign. So I go to this calendar that I had, a flip calendar, and I just randomly pulled one. And I was so encouraged because it said, wherever thou goest, I will go. Your people will be my people. Oh, I still, after 30 years, something that touches me because our guidance is everywhere. So I go through the interviews, and I was just convinced I blew it. I don't know why. I was so anxious. So I would just, Best Western, pace the floor, wring my hands, I should have said this, I didn't say that, and putting myself through hell, literally. So finally we decide we're going to go to the movies. And we went to see a movie that had just come out called The Fugitive. So I watched that, and that huge big train wreck. Oh, what a relief. What a relief. And I realized, my background is psychology, I realized, oh my gosh, that was a transference of my anxiousness into drama. Drama. Drama can be an addiction because we're bored with our own non-eventful life. So some people like to stir it up. It's a lot of fun. It's one way we handle anxiety is by transferring it to other people, other situations, bizarre movies, anything except sit still with ourselves. Anxiety. It's rampant right now. And as we age, there's a tendency to have more anxiety, and that comes from the lips of my doctor. Anxiety. Okay, another story. I was living in Kansas City. Every year they have this big art festival, and I could just walk to it because it was on the plaza, and I lived on the plaza. And my best friend in Virginia would come to see me in September for the art festival, and I'd go to her home in Virginia on the 4th of July. So that's how we kind of saw each other. Well, I'm busy cleaning up my condo like crazy, getting ready for her arrival, and I lose track of time. And I think, oh my gosh, she's arriving in 20 minutes. Well, it took 30 minutes to get to the airport. So I bolted out the door, and I'm in the traffic, and all of a sudden it comes to a complete standstill. I think, okay, I need to let Karen know that I'm going to be a little late. I reach in my purse, no phone. I had left it on the counter. I was stuck there. It was a pretty bad accident. I was stuck there for at least a half hour, and I was already late. So by the time I got to the airport, there's Karen standing there with just her suitcase. She goes, oh, thank God. She said I was calling everybody I knew that she had their number if they knew anything about where I was. I'm glad she just didn't turn around and go home. And I told her what happened. And she just sat there in the car and just said, well, what are you going to do? We just have to manage our own anxiety. I have never forgotten that comment. So many reactions could have happened. How could you do that? Well, you're a real space cadet, aren't you? None of that. She just said, wow, well, what are you going to do? We all have to manage our own anxiety. Okay, fast forward to just 2 days ago. You know how much I love my cat, my little Himalayan Persian, Fiona. Fifi. She also has another nickname, Feaster. One afternoon, Feaster just wasn't around. Oh, okay, she's napping in the closet. She's doing this, she's doing that. She didn't come out for dinner. We sit down to watch a movie. She's always in my lap. Wasn't there. She'll do anything for a treat. Rattle the treat bag, doesn't come. Now, 2 months ago, she got outside and spent 24 hours outside before somebody on next door said, put her litter box outside and open the door. And around 10:15 p.m., she just comes sauntering in like she'd had the best vacation. So where does my mind go? Oh my gosh, she got out. This was the rainy, blustery day when nobody was out. I'm thinking, where did she go? That night, she didn't come. The morning, she didn't jump on the bed to say, I'm hungry or I want to snuggle. Nothing. She was nowhere around. So I am immediately going, and I got to find her. So I get down on my hands and knees in the closet, pushing the shoes away, pushing the clothes away, trying to find her. And I tell you, that's not easy to do. It's like when you're 20. I did it for every closet. I looked under every bed. I opened every cabinet. No cat. So I sit down and I try to calm myself. Right? Adding to this is the layer that she has a history of seizures. So then my mind goes to, oh my gosh, she's had a seizure and she's somewhere curled up where I can't get to her, and she might be dead. Oh, and the tears start to come, and I have to have a good talking to myself. All right. I went to the garage. I stood at the door and called her. Nothing. Later, I went back to the garage and walked around looking at every place I thought a soft place where she might be. Nothing. So the only thing that helped me was to say, she is an expression of God, and God is love, and she is not separate from God, no matter where she is. And that gave me peace. Phil says, oh, she's somewhere. And I'm going, no, she's not. She hasn't used her litter box. She hasn't eaten food. She hasn't done this. She hasn't done that. If you're not a cat lover, bear with me. There's a point to this. So her litter box was clean. I said, well, there's no point putting that outside. There's nothing in it. And he said, well, there is in the garbage. So we go out into the garage and digging in the garbage for some litter, used litter, when all of a sudden she pokes her head out from this impossible place and goes, meow. Now, she doesn't have a very strong cat voice, and she never meows unless she means it. Well, I went over to get her, and she turned around and ran. Where she was, we have this big bin, and it was up against the wall, but she went behind the bin. Now, who would look behind a bin? We managed to pick her up, and it took a while to calm her, soothe her, feed her, and last night she was back to her sweet little kitty self. Point: anxiety will make us go to the worst place possible in our minds. And if you want to lose your peace of mind, then do that enough and you will be a nervous wreck. I was so worried about her, I was literally sick to my stomach. I really thought I was going to throw up. We internalize our anxiety. So this season of Lent, I could say to you, oh, give up your anxiety. But no. Because those moments will come, and they serve a purpose. But knowing what to do to manage your own anxiety, not project it out, is crucial. Anxiety can make us feel very helpless. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. Helplessness is looking out into the outer for some confirmation that things are going to be okay. And we don't know that. We don't know that according to what we want as human beings' ego selves. The only way to manage anxiety is to go within and remember what you know in spiritual principle. That God is everywhere present and God is in charge regardless of who people think they're in charge. it's always the divine presence. Peace, be still and know. And it's hard to be still when you're anxious, when you're worried, when you're panicked. It's hard. But it's not impossible. Because if you're seeking God, all things are possible. To let it go. So I want to close with a good reminder that for Lent, just one of the things that we can do is notice when we're feeling anxious. Now, sometimes that's a chemical imbalance. I mean, that's just a function of the body. That's called free-floating anxiety. You're just anxious for no particular reason. And that's, too, can be handled through meditation, through prayer and meditation, and seeing your medical doctor if it's chronic. Because God works through doctors, too. Yeah. Okay. This is something that I really, really like. And oh, by the way, this talk came to me this morning. I had a completely different topic. Pretty much. You'll get that next Sunday. Because I think Spirit was saying to me, you're not ready for this one yet. You're not ready to give this one yet. This is from Philippians. The letter to the Philippians. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank God for all that has been done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and mind as you live in Christ Jesus. Now let me just say this about one line. Tell God what you need. Well, God already knows. But in framing it in language, we ourselves release. We release and we let it go. Prayer is really for us to express. And then we sit still and listen. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. Release anxiety by letting go and surrendering and knowing that in a way you are helpless. You don't know what the next moment will bring, but you do know what is eternal in here. Start here. Thank you.